who is the famed St. Louis Post-Dispatch sports columnist, STLtoday.com. He's with the Sports Guys at Night, and he joins us every Monday. Good morning, Ben Frederickson.
Good morning, McGraw. How's it going?
Should we erect a statue of Adam Wainwright now, or should we wait till the end of the season?
Well, maybe not the statue yet. I think we might want to wait till he retires to think about that. But certainly a throwback performance for Mr. Wainwright, who very much enjoys shaking a finger at his doubters, and he got to do it with both hands last night after 6 scoreless innings. The Cardinals. It was only the third time in the past month that they've gotten 6 scoreless from a starter, and Adam looked sharp. I mean, the curveball looked great, and the velocity kind of wasn't great, but wasn't terrible, and he was effective, and more than effective against a really good Dodgers lineup that has hammered the Cardinals all series, and he was the biggest reason that they were able to quiet those Dodgers bats down, and I think he's going to be a part of this thing, man. I mean, I don't know that he's going to give you 6 scoreless every time, but he's proven to be effective enough to be a part of this rotation moving forward.
You could argue that was probably the biggest win of the year for the Cardinals.
Well, at this point, yeah. In that situation, I think I agree. I mean, getting swept at home by a Dodgers team that is a direct competitor in the wild card race, that would have been a tough pill to swallow in the standings as well. The Cardinals saved some face. They head to Atlanta with a bounce in their step, and the Rockies aren't exactly on top of the world right now either. So they're in this thing, and it would have felt like they were on the outside looking in a bit if they would have gotten swept at home.
Nobody would have batted an eye if Adam Wainwright would have quietly gone away, taken his money, said he tried to rehab and not come back, right? But for him to go out and do this, nobody was expecting him back when he first went on the DL early in the season. For him to do all of that, he could have taken the money. I had a great career, but for him to do that, that's a legendary game yesterday. We'll be talking about that game for a long time to come.
Yeah, it goes down in his list of top achievements, I think. And I don't think that's exaggerating, because you said nobody would have batted an eye. I think a lot of people would have cheered. There's been this kind of pit in the stomach of Cardinals fans that Adam Wainwright is being brought back for nostalgia, right, or hope as opposed to effectiveness. And the way he's pitched, that wasn't an unreasonable discussion. He had been bad. He'd been injury prone. He hadn't really been the guy that Adam Wainwright's name tends to suggest since before 2016, and all these health problems. You just wondered if he was going to be able to be effective, and you also wondered too if the Cardinals were too willing to let him try these comebacks. If no one in the room would step up and say, "Hey, Adam, we don't think this is going to work this time." The Cardinals initially planned to bring him back as a reliever if he got back at all.
Right. And
the initial plan was to see if he could offer you 1 inning. And as that rehab tour went along, he started feeling better and better. And he eventually told the Cardinals, "Look, don't bring me back as a reliever. I can start." And I think there was some hesitation there, but he proved it. And they did those extra rehab starts in Memphis. And at that point, I think it's important to remember he's not replacing Miles Mikolas or Jack Flaherty in the rotation. I mean, he's replacing Luke Weaver, who's getting drilled right now, and looks like he needs to head into an off season to figure out what's going on with his stuff. I mean, he's filling a need.
Yeah.
And he looked rough at the first time out. He did just enough to earn another start, and he comes back and completely blows everybody away last night. There are certain kinds of competitors, and I would put Yadier Molina in this category as well, that you just don't write off. I mean, you let the body lay overnight before you declare it dead.
Yeah.
They just have that in them. This competitive gene that allows them to go be so good for so long, and they're not gonna call it quits until they're sure they have nothing left. And we would be wise not to write them off before then.
All right, so we're gonna hold off on the statue to Adam Wainwright. What about giving the Manager of the Year award to Mike Shildt already? Can we just do that now?
Well, Bud Black is pretty good. The Braves manager is pretty good. I think Mike Shildt belongs in the discussion as long as the Cardinals continue to be on a path that gets them into the postseason. If they don't make it in, it's going to be hard for him to have a legitimate case. If they do get in, then I think he'll be involved in that discussion, because no one expected this team to be in the hunt when that change was made, at least outside of the Cardinals organization. The Cardinals, of course, said they're making this move now to try to showed that they have a talented team that can play postseason baseball. We all kind of rolled our eyes.
Right.
But Mike Schilt is eligible, and this team has played quite a bit better since he took over the reins. Now, there's going to be some discussion about the pause point that they hit after he was named full-time manager and stripped of the interim tag. I think it would have been hard for them to keep winning at that rate,
Right.
but the Cardinals did open that door when they made the move. But if they get back on track here and kind of get their momentum back after this big win against L.A., then I think he's going to remain in that discussion. I really do. He's got some tough competition, though, starting in Atlanta for sure.
Yeah. Let's switch to college football. How about my Tigers? My Tigers are rocking and rolling 3-0.
Well, they're 3-0, and they have some big question marks about their defense headed into a game against a really good Georgia team that so far this season is 3-0 without having to play their starters in the fourth quarter and rested all their main good players after halftime last week. So that's going to be a tall order. Beating Purdue on the road, it was a good win no matter how it came, but there were some questions that comes with the defense. They got torched by a quarterback who's not necessarily the team's starting quarterback. Gave up more passing yards than any Mizzou defense has. Allowed that quarterback David Blau to become the second all-time in one game leading passer in the Big Ten, which is alarming considering there've been some pretty good quarterbacks in that conference. So they got to figure out how to get their pass rush going. They got to figure out how to stop these guys in the secondary when they get to the secondary. And if they can do that, then they look like a better football team. But the defense that looked pretty good through 2 weeks had some holes in it on Saturday.
Well, Derek Dooley, man, that guy is the best offensive coordinator the world's ever seen.
Well, I think he is showing that he's making the right calls for now. Mm-hmm. And I also think that maybe they should go for it next time they have 4th and 4 with less than 30 seconds left in the first half, as opposed to trying to kick a 50-yard field goal that got blocked and allowed Purdue to score headed into halftime. But these are minor things. Look, they're 3-0, and he's got a great quarterback.
But that's really not his call. That's Odom's call. That's not the offensive coordinator's call.
Well, it was a bit of the shared burden, I believe, because Odom said after the game that he went to the booth where the offensive coordinator is to find out a play to run on the 4th and 4, and that there was indecision on which play to call. Yeah. So it was a bit of a confusion on multiple fronts, I think. But I'm probably being too negative. That can happen from time to time.
You are negative,
and
Nelly.
I think the main thing is they've got a heck of a quarterback who is going to win them some football games this year if they can get some things locked in around him.
I tell you, Drew Lock is he's pretty good. Can we give a shout out to my Huskers 0-2 after losing to Troy? And for all the Mizzou fans who hate Nebraska, they've lost 6 home games in a row. Haven't won a game at home in a year.
And you're fully on the Scott Frost.
Oh, I am driving the bandwagon.
You're just. I mean, my goodness, can you have a clear some accountability from you?
Well, first of all,
you're supposed to be the cynic.
You sports media, okay, you troublemakers. As you know, success does not go in a straight line. Sometimes, and success doesn't always equate wins. And so that's how far the program has fallen. Scott Frost is the only person in the country who can turn this program around and will at some point.
Bo Pelini's pretty good at Youngstown. Maybe they should bring him back.
Bo Pelini was fine, but you had to hide the women and children, man. I mean,
No, I'll say this. I'd probably get my Scott Frost jokes in now because I think it won't be too long before those don't play anymore.
So you agree with me then?
I think he's a pretty good coach. Yeah,
that's exactly
right.
I
think it was a good fit, obviously, with his history there. And I'll go as far as to say this: Nebraska is one of those teams that you want Nebraska football to be good, even if the Big 12 holdovers who were raised to hate Nebraska. It's no fun if Nebraska's not good. So I hope that it works. I think Scott Frost is a heck of a coach, but you're right. There's some growing pains. And you just like to see those go away early because if they don't, then you're talking about a Lovie Smith situation at Illinois where you made a splash higher and you're 3 and going, we're getting beat by South Florida at home, a South Florida team that wanted to give that game away.
Yeah. Well, let the Husker haters, revel in the loss to Troy because let them enjoy it. They have earned it. Ben, have yourself a good week. We'll see you in the paper. Thanks.